The Brazilian president is one of the few heads of state who hasn't congratulated the US president-elect. Instead, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has warned Joe Biden against any pressure put upon him about the deforestation in the Amazon forest. Bolsonaro launched threats at a ceremony promoting the country's tourism.
We have recently seen a chief of state candidate saying that if I don't put out the fires in the Amazon, he will impose trade barriers against Brazil. How can we confront this? We know diplomacy alone is not enough. When the yelling is over, gunpowder might be needed. We don't even need to use it, but they need to know we have it.
Biden had made these comments at a TV debate with President Donald Trump at the end of September. It follows Brazil's carbon emissions increasing by nearly 10% last year from deforestation, according to environmental organizations. Meanwhile, COVID-19 was also targeted in his speech after a huge impact on the country's tourism sector. More than 8% of Brazil's GDP is from this industry.
Everything is pandemic now. We have to stop that. I'm sorry for the deaths. I'm sorry, but we're all going to die someday. Everyone here is going to die. Nobody will escape that. We have to stop being a country of sissies.
Brazil remains the third country most affected in the world by the pandemic. Around 163,000 people have died so far. Jay Marquez, Euronews.
COVID was not a very good time for populist leaders across the world, from Brazil to Poland. And I think that Trump's victory surely doesn't help them. And the crisis has shown that many of them have been ruling incompetently. But I still believe that for most of the populist parties and leaders, and most of them are still in the opposition rather than ruling their countries, it was Trump's victory in 2016 rather than his defeat in 2020, which is still more important because it makes them more electable. But Trump, for the leaders like Polish leaders or Brazilian ones that you mentioned, was mostly a nice to have rather than a must. They have their own internal problems, and if they lose power anytime soon, it will be because of those internal problems rather than because Trump is suddenly no longer in the White House. In Poland and much of the Eastern and Central Europe, it's about the defense of so-called traditional values against the dangers of LGBT or women's rights. There are countries in the South where it's mostly about being anti-migrant or even anti-Islam, which is also influentially among the populist leaders in the North, who are nevertheless also focusing on not wanting to pay much more to the European Union's budget, which is not necessarily the thing that the Southerners are talking about. And finally, there are parties like Vox in Spain, whose nationalism is not necessarily directed at the European Union, but mostly at national regionalism, such as the one in Catalonia. So this shows that they have strong drivers that are making them popular, and Trump's defeat does not necessarily change that.